Absolutely can't make this stuff up. We've seen this time and time again. The wife of judge blocking Trump administration is USA grant recipient. Judge John Bates ordered the president to restore sex change and gender ideology web pages. Now we learned that his wife, Carol Rees, is the founder of Hope for Children in Ethiopia, a long-term recipient of USAID funding. And USA, the swamp is deep. One of the activist judges is married to the founder of the USAID funded NGO. She is a Democrat lawyer who started the organization. And Elon Musk commented, there needs to be an immediate wave of judicial impeachments, not just one. Welcome to the show, the original BCP show. I am your host, James, the original BCP. I've already done 2 reports today, folks, but so many things happened. And I have found that if the reports go over 23 minutes or so, it doesn't get pushed by the algorithm. So I've got more news to cover for you folks. So let's get right into it. We don't generally agree with Chucky Schumer, but he may be onto something here. Something that we've known about, and that's why we're happy with Doge.
The bottom line is simple. Everyone knows there's waste in government and should be cut, but Doge is using a meat axe.
That's right. You heard with your own 2 ears and saw with your own 2 eyes that Chuck Schumer says that everyone knows there's waste in government and that it should be cut. And when you have a cancer, you cut it with a meat cleaver. Those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts. That when you have gangrene, you amputate. That's efficiency. So yeah, I agree with Chucky Schumer there, but I don't buy the line that we have to be spending money abroad to save us here. That's just an excuse to launder money.
Most people would want to see us continue our fight in Central Africa against Ebola so it doesn't come here. And so the bottom line is very simple, okay? If you want to make cuts, then you do it through a debate in Congress, not lawlessly by just implementing it.
All right, so that's Senator Chucky Schumer's take on it. But I really love Senator Kennedy of Louisiana, John Kennedy's take on this entire hypocrisy and craziness from the Democrats about Doge and auditing the government.
It strikes me as breathtakingly ironic. The cynic might say cynical, that the people who are screaming so loudly about President Trump's decision to audit federal spending are the very same people under President Biden who wanted to hire 80,000 new IRS agents with guns to audit the American people.
They oppose the peaceful auditing by Doge of government spending, but they wanted to have armed IRS agents audit we the people. Who's really the tyrant here? Who are really the tyrants? Who are really the people that don't believe in liberty, freedom, and democracy?
As I've said before, if it weren't for double standards, there wouldn't be any standards at all in this town. Some of the same people, it's not just my Democratic colleagues, there are many people in Washington, D.C. that have grouped together and they've circled the wagons and they've decided to support the spending and the bureaucrats over the American taxpayer. That's their right. It's not against the law or unconstitutional to be foolish in America. But these are the same people. These are the same people who chose to support illegal immigration over the rule of law.
Speaking of illegal immigration, would you believe that CBS News had this report coming out of Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas, where busload after busload after busload of illegal immigrants were being loaded on military aircraft and flown to their home countries.
We could see about 80 men, women, and children, recent arrivals in the U.S., stepping off buses and stepping on to military transport jets. This group was going to Ecuador. 2 days later, Border Patrol and the Army allowed us onto the base for a closer look at another full flight, this time going to Guatemala. Some of the migrants on board traveled for months to get to the U.S. They would return to Central America in 5 hours.
Look, folks, the reality is I love the people of Central America. I served a 2-year religious mission between the age of 19 and 21 in Nicaragua, right after the Sandinistas lost power and Presidenta Chamorro came back into power and granted religious freedom to the country. And I saw firsthand the horrors that happened to a country under Marxist rule. And that made a very big impression on me. I was already anti-communist from my 3 semesters previous to that at UC Berkeley. But then I got to see firsthand at the tender age of 19 how terrible for society communism, socialism, Marxism, whatever you want to call it, is. One of the last times as an adult that I can tell you that I cried my eyes out was when Nicaragua decided to have Daniel Ortega come back into power. I don't know if that was a legitimate election or not, but that was in the early 2000s, and my soul was torn apart to see that they were going back to that mess. And we can see what a mess Daniel Ortega has caused over the last, 15, 20 years being back in power in Nicaragua. I've also had a business in El Salvador in the early 2000s. And that business I closed shortly before 9/11. I love these people, but they have been victims. Yes, they have been victims of the globalists and their propaganda of mass migration. The reality is in Central American countries, many people are not educated at all, and they don't have the discernment that they are being used as pawns in the globalist game of mass migration. But we are a country of law and order. And it is illegal to come to our country. And many of these people are not good people. In fact, many of these people are not even going back to their home countries. They're going to Guantanamo Bay.
Military planes are also carrying migrants to Guantanamo Bay. The first flight on a C-17, which can carry as many as 134 passengers, had about 10 detainees on board. The U.S. military is also expanding a migrant operations center there to hold as many as 30,000 people. In 1994, when 45,000 migrants sheltered at Guantanamo and Panama, government estimates put the cost at nearly $500 million, equivalent to more than $1 billion today. So then you look again, could you put some more people on some of these flights, especially these early flights to Guantanamo Bay that have had 15 people on them, a dozen people? We know that the administration does want to make those daily flights here in the near future.
So stuff's getting done under President Trump. Let's go over to Texas, where ICE is going full bore. Texas resident reporting the block is hot. U.S. Border Patrol and ICE are scouting the neighborhood, doing immigration checks, and even have a helicopter for air support. They brought a Border Patrol van for all the illegals they're detaining. It is so hot that in some places, the people are now self-deporting. Illegal immigrants in Atlanta say the laws have already become too hard for my people here. We've got this guy here who says, you know what, things are just too tough. So they're going to California because it's easier for illegal immigrants in Califas in California. So he's headed there with his family. And why is that? Well, California, where I currently am right now, is a sanctuary state. And you have obviously the sanctuary cities of San Francisco, Los Angeles, etc., that roll out the red carpet and literally have a 2-tier system. For instance, in Los Angeles, they passed an ordinance where you cannot ask a person their legal status. And if someone is illegal, their car could not get confiscated. But me, a black American, an American of a higher melanin count, if the same thing were to happen to me in that county, then they could confiscate my car. but not an illegal alien because they need to get to work, to babysit and clean the houses of the elitists over there. Well, California may want to pay attention very closely to what Pam Bondi just announced today. Here's her at the Department of Justice today, Wednesday, February 12th.
And that's why President Trump has directed this to stop. And if you don't comply with federal law, we will hold you accountable. We did it to Illinois, strike one. Strike two is New York. And if you are a state not complying with federal law, you're next. Get ready. And the great men and women of law enforcement are standing behind me today. We have FBI, DEA, ATF agents. They put their lives on the line every single day to protect us. And what New York has, they have green light laws, meaning they're giving a green light to any illegal alien in New York where law enforcement officers cannot check their identity if they pull them over. Law enforcement officers do not have access to their background. And if these great men and women pull over someone and don't have access to their background, they have no idea who they're dealing with. And it puts their lives on the line every single day. Violent criminals, gang members, drug traffickers, human smugglers will no longer terrorize the American people. And that is why we are here today. You will be held accountable if you do not follow federal law. It's over, it ends, and we're coming after you.
And that, folks, was no idle threat, because 3 people in the state of New York were just named as part of this action by our United States Attorney General, Pam Bondi. Check this out. This is bombastic.
That breaking news now, the Department of Justice just announcing a lawsuit against Governor Kathy Hochul, New York Attorney General Letitia James, and others over their pushback against President Trump's immigration policy.
We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today.
This is indeed a new DOJ bringing charges against the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, and the Attorney General, Letitia James, who has one of the worst terminal cases of TDS ever. Folks, this is huge with a capital Y. Huge. This is huge.
The new Attorney General, Pam Bondi, saying during a news conference that New York statutes unlawfully prevent state and federal law enforcement from enforcing immigration law. Bondi directing the Department of Justice to file charges against the state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul, and Attorney General Letitia James for allegedly failing to enforce federal immigration laws. Now, last week, the DOJ filing a similar lawsuit against the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago over their migrant policies. Bondi saying this move should be a warning to other states that sanctuary city laws won't be tolerated under the Trump administration.
Are you paying attention, Gavin Newsom? Are you paying attention, LA Mayor Karen Bass, and all of the other anti-American, pro-other nation, supposedly elected by the American citizenry to represent them, Democrat politicians? Are you paying attention? I want to see these charges. I want to see these people go to court. I want to see some people's asses thrown in jail.
Well, we have not heard a comment yet from the Attorney General or Governor Hochul's office. When we get it, we'll be sure to bring it to you.
Pam Bondi having a hell of a day, a good day, not a hell of a bad day, as I covered in the previous report. We have Tulsi Gabbard, who was officially sworn in as Director of National Intelligence by Pam Bondi in the Oval Office. President Trump also announcing that tomorrow he will be disclosing more information about what looks like kickbacks to federal bureaucrats, employees, possibly elected officials, with all of the things that they have found over at Doge. And here's a swearing in.
I, Tulsi Gabbard, do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend.
I, Tulsi Gabbard, do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
And that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
And that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
I take this obligation freely.
Now, I'm going to end this report with the few words that Tulsi Gabbard said when she addressed those in the Oval Office after being sworn in by Pam Bondi. I think it's a great way to end. She said something so that touched me at the end that I want to play for you. But before we go there, since we're talking about leadership and we're talking about consequences, that we're finally seeing some action against these treasonous, traitorous, bad actors that are working against we, the American people. We now have that 4 FEMA employees were fired for that $59 million payment for the New York City migrants. 4 employees were fired for circumventing leadership and unilaterally making the egregious payment for hotels for migrants in New York City. And of course, we learned earlier this week that Doge had found those $59 million that were still paid, even though that money was supposed to be allotted for American disaster relief, and that they were going to be recouping those funds. But not everybody takes their firing like a man or a woman. Just in, 8 inspectors general fired by President Trump sue to get their jobs back. And of course, the case is assigned to an Obama judge. So we can probably guess how this is going to end up. 8 inspectors general fired by Trump are now suing to get their jobs back, and the case was assigned to an Obama judge. President Trump last month fired over a dozen inspectors general in a late-night purge shortly after he was sworn into office. Real Clear Politics reporter Susan Crabtree explained that many of these inspectors generals who are in a position to identify and clean up waste and abuse have long histories of whitewashing reports and playing politics. President Trump kept current Department of Homeland Security Inspector General Kafari Jr., who is conducting multiple investigations into the Secret Service failures that led to 2 assassination attempts on President Trump's life. He also kept Michael Horowitz, who has a record of whitewashing reports and excusing criminal acts by far-left officials. Today, Wednesday, February 12th, 8 inspectors general sued to get their jobs back and argued Trump violated a questionable law passed by Congress in 2022. The law requires a U.S. president to notify Congress 30 days before firing an inspector general and to explain in detail the reason for the termination. The lawsuit was assigned to Judge Randolph Moss, an Obama appointee. Kyle Cheney reporting on it. Judge Moss gets the inspector general lawsuit. He's an Obama appointee who also has lawsuits related to Doge access to student loan data and to data security of OPM records. Oh, and by the way, Google Maps has updated the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America for its U.S. users. Now I want to end with this, folks. Let me play you this in 2 parts. Here's the first part of what Tulsi Gabbard said as right after she was sworn in as the new DNI.
Mr. President, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for the trust that you have placed in me to fulfill this critical position as Director of National Intelligence at any time, but specifically during this time. Unfortunately, the American people have very little trust in the intelligence community, largely because they've seen the weaponization and politicization of an entity that is supposed to be purely focused on ensuring our national security. So I look forward to being able to help fulfill that mandate that the American people delivered to you very clearly in this election, to refocus our intelligence community by empowering the great patriots who have chosen to serve our country in this way, and focus on ensuring the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. As you've said, Mr. President, this is what I've dedicated my life to, and it is truly humbling to be in this position, to serve in your administration, help to rebuild that trust, and ultimately to keep the American people safe.
Those are beautiful words by Tulsi Gabbard. She understands the assignment that President Trump has because he was duly elected by we, the people. But what really touched me is what she said in conclusion.
Last thing I'll mention, that in your National Prayer Breakfast speech, you made a statement about your legacy of wanting to be remembered as a peacemaker. I know that I can speak for many of my fellow service members who are here today, veterans, Medal of Honor recipients, how deeply that resonates with us. For those who volunteer to put their lives on the line when duty calls, but to have a president and commander-in-chief who recognizes the cost of that sacrifice and ensuring that war is the last resort, not the first. So thank you for your leadership on behalf of my friends here and all who wear the uniform. We're grateful. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Just wow. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you, DNI Tulsi Gabbard. God bless America. God bless this administration. And God bless you and your families. Until the next one, make sure you hit that notification bell and like this video. And do me a solid, please share this on social media. Let people know that the original BCP is back. And I'm a tour de force, and I have to be, to cover the real tour de force, our duly elected and beloved President, Donald John Trump.